he's had the pass briefly in the weeks after the election. He may have had to attend meetings there. Remember, there are meetings that take place on a political basis there, which are not anything to do with the operations of government. I don't believe he's currently in possession of a pass.
So he had a pass, but he wasn't a political advisor, was he?
Do you mean a special advisor?
Yeah, a
like
special advisor.
No,
He was there to attend political meetings, but he wasn't a special advisor.
That's correct.
Right. So what did he bring to government in that role as...
He wasn't involved in government.
Okay, what did he bring to the political operations for Keir Starmer?
To the political operation of the Labour Party, a huge amount. He's a highly respected peer. He worked very hard on the election campaign. He was an important part of the election campaign. So he brought a lot to the Labour Party, but he's not a government official or involved in policy.
Very good morning to Cabinet Office Minister Pat McFadden, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster and Labour's National Campaign Coordinator. If I could start by asking you, Mr. McFadden, we're just over 50 days into this new government and we have our first reset speech on Tuesday where Keir Starmer is going to tell people that they will have to wait some time to see the change that was promised during the election. How long is that wait?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as a reset speech. He's making a speech on Tuesday, which is an important reflection on the first 50 days. He'll be talking a lot about the riots that took place at the beginning of the month and his experience in dealing with riots back in 2011 when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions and today as Prime Minister. And he'll draw a contrast and say that it was tougher today because the institutions have become more threadbare. The economic inheritance is difficult. People know about the terrible situation we inherited with the prison system where it was almost overflowing and on the verge of a breakdown in proper operation. We had to take emergency action on that within days of taking office. And what he'll say to people is change is coming, change has begun, but it will take time because of this inheritance. And I think that's a welcome departure from some of the snake oil that's been sold to the public in recent years, where people have been told that the problems can go away, there's a magic wand, that everything's going to be instantly okay. He's not saying that. He's saying change will come. He's there for the long term. He's got a plan for it, but we have to work through this inheritance that we've received in the first place.
How long? When do you think our listeners will actually be able to look and say, actually, you know, what Labour has done has worked, things have got better?
Well, some change has happened already, for example.
But for it to be felt.
You know, we've established a national wealth fund. We've changed the planning rules to get house building more. We've lifted the ban on onshore wind. Change is happening all the time, and we'll keep going with that. But we've got to work through some of these economic inheritance challenges that we have. And very importantly, I think he'll say we've also got societal division and society change too, which was reflected in some of the disturbances that we had a few weeks ago. And he's going to go out of his way on Tuesday to say that those who tried to make excuses for that were wrong and praise the people who stood up and said, this is not what our town, not what our city stands for. We're better than that, and face down some of the people who were attacking the police and engaging in criminal damage.
Just in terms of the changes and how Labour has sought to refocus on working people, particularly over those pensioners, is it fair to you that in order to balance the books, we're going to see the average train driver salary reach £69,000 a year, but a pensioner on a fixed income of just over £13,000 is going to lose £300 in winter fuel payments. And then, of course, their energy bills are going to go up by more than 10%. That sounds demonstrably unfair to many of our listeners.
Well, let me take both of those things in turn. On the question of industrial disputes, a lot of these have been going on for years. They had to be settled at some point. We have come in, we've rolled up our sleeves, we said we want to settle these disputes, get the transport system working again, get the NHS working properly again. That's in everyone's interest. and it's really important that that happened. Our priority is economic growth, and so it's important to settle those disputes and get the country working again. On the question of pensioners, we will protect the pension. We will maintain the triple lock, which sets the level of the pension either at the level of earnings or prices, whichever is higher. We've said we'll do that for the course of the Parliament. On the winter fuel payment, this is not a decision that we wanted to take, but we were faced with a huge black hole in the public finances when we took office. And it's really important that listeners understand that anyone who's entitled to pension credit will still get that winter fuel payment. And there are hundreds of thousands of pensioners who are entitled to the pension credit but don't claim it at the moment. So we're making a major effort to ensure that anyone who is entitled to it claims it, and they've got until December to do that. So it's really important that people are entitled to it, that they claim it and get what they are entitled to.
But you're still looking at somebody who's on a very low fixed income, having £300 removed from that income in order to pay for an inflation-busting pay rise for public sector workers. And they don't have a choice about whether, many of those pensioners will not have no choice about how they can increase their income. And it does seem for those as if that's unfair.
Look, if we hadn't done this,
it's only £1 billion, isn't it?
It's about £1.5 billion a year. It's a material difference to make, and it's in everyone's interest to make sure that the public finances are properly worked through and managed properly. And we saw the price of when you don't do that a couple of years ago, where pension funds had to be rescued by the Bank of England at the time. So these are the tough decisions that a Chancellor has to make. And we had to face up to the inheritance that we had on the industrial relations front and the public finances front. And these are the issues that we're having to work through, and we will work through, because it's really important to get the country back to work, to get the economy moving, to manage the public finances in the right way. And we're going to do all those things because that is the foundation for the change that the country needs.
Just moving on to the budget and possible tax rises, can you guarantee that national insurance contributions across the board are not going to be increased by Rachel Reeves?
Well, these are all decisions for the Chancellor, but we said in our manifesto that we wouldn't increase the rates of national insurance, of income tax or VAT. That was in the manifesto. That remains the position. And she is working through this difficult budget, which is coming at the end of October. And if she's got things to announce, they'll be announced at that time.
But just on that promise is solid for employers' contributions.
Yeah, we said we wouldn't increase the rates of national insurance or VAT or income tax. That was in the manifesto. That remains the case.
But just to go back, so national insurance, employees and employers' contributions are not going to be increased.
That's what we said in the manifesto. I've said it 3 times.
Yeah. No, I just want to be clear. I've asked it 3 times. Okay, I accept your answer, Mr. McFadden. Thank you. Could we just move on very quickly to Lord Alli, Wahid Ali? This is the story on the front page of today's Sunday Times. A long-time Labour donor, he gave Keir Starmer £16,200 for work clothing, thought to be suits and multiple pairs of glasses, £2,500 during the election campaign. Can I start by asking you, what job is Lord Alli doing in Downing Street?
He's not doing a job in Downing Street. I think he had a pass briefly. He's not involved in any government or policy decisions, so he's not doing a job in the sense that you ask.
So the pass he's still got the pass, or the pass has been removed?
It's not been removed. I think he's had the pass briefly in the weeks after the election. He may have had to attend meetings there. Remember, there are meetings that take place on a political basis there, which are not anything to do with the operations of government. I don't believe he's currently in possession of a pass.
So he had a pass, but he wasn't a political advisor, was he?
Do you mean a special advisor?
Yeah, a special advisor. No, he was there to attend political meetings, but he wasn't a special advisor.
That's correct.
Right. So what did he bring to government in that role as?
He wasn't involved in government.
Okay. What did he bring to the political operations for Keir
Oh, to the
Starmer?
political operation of the Labour Party, a huge amount. He's a highly respected peer. He worked very hard on the election campaign. Um, he was an important part of the election campaign. So he brought a lot to the Labour Party, but he's not a government official or involved in policy.
But he can bring a huge amount to the Labour Party without a pass to Downing Street, can't he?
I'm sure he can. He doesn't have that pass anymore. He might have needed it for a short time after the election. Um, but he does bring a huge amount to the Labour Party. And as I say, he's a very highly respected peer.
I understand that. Can I just bring you to a quote that Keir Starmer gave in January 2024 when he said, "To change Britain, we must change ourselves. We need to clean up politics. No more VIP fast lanes, no more kickbacks for colleagues, no more revolving doors between government and the companies they regulate." That doesn't sit very well with the idea that a peer can donate £500,000 to the Labour Party and then suddenly find themselves with an all-access pass to Downing Street. How do you square that circle, Pat McFadden?
Well, wait a minute. I mean, you're talking there about kickbacks and VIP contracts.
But it's about
Wahid Ali,
perception, isn't it?
Wahid Ali's not had any of that. That's how can you
But this is
make
about
that
the
equation?
perception of government. Labour came in on a plan to change the country, and now we have a situation, where somebody who doesn't have a formal job has a pass to Downing Street. These passes, I know this, these passes are highly guarded. They're very difficult to get hold of. And it does stink, doesn't it, if somebody has a pass which allows them access to the very highest echelons of government and they're a donor to the party. How do you convince the public that you're any different from the last lot?
Look, it's really important. We respect the civil service. Keir will operate to the highest standards as Prime Minister. We will always obey the rules. I don't believe there's anything being done here that's in conflict with the rules. We take these rules seriously. We take the institutions seriously, and we'll always respect them. And that will be reflected in the way that the government conducts itself. And I can assure you it's taken very, very seriously by the Prime Minister.
And is that why Lord Alli handed the pass back?
No, I don't. I mean, I'm not sure why that is. The only thing I would take issue with you in the questions you put to me is talking about VIP contracts and kickbacks. I think that's really unfair to use that in the context.
No, but
of
it's
Wahid Ali.
it's
He's
about
not been
perception. I'm
involved
not
in any of
accusing.
that.
I'm not accusing. Let me be very clear. I'm glad you raised that, Pat McFadden. I'm not accusing Lord Alli of any of those things. Not for one
that's
moment.
good.
I'm going to be
That's
absolutely
good.
crystal clear on that. Okay. I'm talking about perception. I'm talking about what you guys, Labour, promised to do when they came into government. What you said, you were going to clean up politics. And here we have an individual who has donated a huge amount of money to Labour Party, a huge amount of money to Keir Starmer personally. And then suddenly he is able to find himself with a pass which grants him the ability to access the very top of the government. And I'm saying there is a perception I would view from our listeners' point, from where they're sitting, listening to this morning, that doesn't smell right.
Well, look, I think what's important is that person involved in any meetings or discussions they shouldn't be. No one suggested that's the case. No one suggested there's been any rule broken here. No one suggested there's been any influence on policy in any way. That's the important thing. And what you said about what we said about respect for standards holds. That is something that Keir Starmer takes seriously. And I should say, something he tells the rest of the cabinet to take seriously too.
Can I just move on to Ian Caulfield? Why has he decided to resign his post, his paid post, and take up voluntary work for Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor? What's behind that decision?
Well, it's always been the case that people can be employed for short-term projects or for policy advice reasons in this way. And we respect the rules, we'll follow the rules always precisely because we do respect this and we do respect the way the civil service operates. So if there's been a change in his status, I assume it's on civil service advice, and that's why we would immediately say yes, if he has to change his status, if that's the advice, we'll accept it. That's the way that we operate, precisely because we want a good relationship with the civil service. We want to work well with them. And so we take seriously the advice that we get on these things.
So when you're looking at this, there's something's gone wrong in the process of appointing Ian Caulfield, and therefore you've decided to row back on it, and he's gone from being a paid advisor to taking a voluntary role.
Well, if he was employed in the first place on a different basis, I assume that was on the basis of advice too, because we don't do these things directly. You always take advice on them. And if that advice has changed and that there should be a change in his status, we'll accept that advice too. And we do that precisely because we do respect the rules. We want to abide by them. And I would stress, appointments like this have taken place under successive governments. There isn't anything new here, but we are very keen to respect the advice that we're given.
Can the civil service be confident that dealing with advisors and dealing with this Labour government, that their impartiality is going to be respected, given everything that we've seen and allegations of cronyism over the last few weeks?
Absolutely, they can, and I've got enormous respect for the civil service. I can't thank them enough for the help they've given the new government since we took office a couple of months ago. I work with a wonderful team in the Cabinet Office, and when I went into the Cabinet Office, I spoke to the civil servants, said we will respect you, we work with you, we want you to turn up motivated to help the government deliver its objectives, and that's the spirit in which we've approached it. So I'm full of praise for the civil service, and I'm really looking forward to working with them over the coming years.
Just my final question. You obviously work very closely with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, in your role as the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Is he feeling energised? Is he feeling up for this? It's been a gruelling summer. He hasn't been able to get away. He hasn't had a break. He's had to work continuously throughout the summer as a result of the riots. Is he feeling energised as we start the new political term and able to take on the challenges this country faces?
Absolutely. He's like a man who's had a can of political Red Bull and 6 political Duracell batteries. He has made the transition from opposition to office seamlessly. He is really serious and energised about tackling the problems that the country faces. I think he conducted himself, particularly during that period of the riots a few weeks ago, in a completely exemplary way, gripping it day by day. We had Cobra meetings almost every day. I was involved in them. He's directing operations. He's making a serious speech on Tuesday where he's levelling with the country and saying we've got a tough situation here, but change is on the way. So he's very much energised and up for it, and I think he's going to be a really good Prime Minister.
Pat McFadden, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Cheers, Pat.